G'day guys, welcome back to the Fond Supercoach YouTube channel. Today we will be reviewing round 13 and discussing trades and overall strategy. So this week scored 2011, which was about par, moved me up 41 spots, which I was pretty happy with. But yeah, let's jump into the review. So in defense, Dale, I can't even remember some of these matchups to be honest. Dale against the Hawks just went really well. Dale scores well at Marvel. The Hawks give up points to defenders, so this was a predictable good score. Probably too expensive now, I don't know, but I do really like Dale going through here. How did I end up with Lockie Whitfield? So what are my trades? I did the trades that I said I would do, where I got Bont in and Clark for Carroll. I can't remember the other one. But I also traded Roberts to Whitfield when I heard that Roberts was going to be out. I did this just before the Swans game. This was a huge error. I had anticipated Whitfield going back to half-back because when the game was on the line last week, he was moved behind the ball. And I think the Giants' defensive makeup isn't very good. However, looking at the team sheets, I probably should have been able to detect that he would not move behind the ball. I think some players I can understand coaches not wanting them off half back. Whitfield is not one of them. I think he's tailor-made for it, and I just don't understand the move. So it's pretty frustrating because this is probably... I might have traded in a guy going 100 for 550k, which is pretty frustrating, but it is what it is. And then Rosie was really good, 116. I don't know, he hasn't gone massive and he's been around this 530 mark for pretty much the whole of the last 8 weeks. Still highly recommend getting in Rosie if you don't have him. Zorko, 80 against the Crows. I couldn't watch a lot of this game as I was out, but sounded like he had a few clangers early and didn't get involved too much. It looked like Keys was on him a bit as well, so... it is what it is. And then Fonty, 59 against the Power. We take that. Been my only good downgrade for the entire season, which we will discuss that later because it has well and truly cooked me. But there are many others in that boat. So the question is, how do we get out of that? We will talk that later. Clark, 71 was pretty handy. I think Clark has a lot of attributes of being a very good winger where his ball use is okay. And he's very good overhead. He needs to work on his defensive game a little bit, but he'll get there with more game time. So really like him as a prospect. I think the Dons have got a good one there for cheap. Gray got injured in the VFL, which is an absolute disaster. And I was under the impression that Gray would play forward when Bolter played. That was apparently not the case. So that was very frustrating to see. That pretty much came from the coach's mouth. So... yeah, pretty disappointed to see that. And then Bailey Smith late out. I don't think I was affected by that as much as others. Let me just confirm that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So I had 2 scores drop off, which was an 8 and a 19. Okay, so that did hurt me. But it is what it is. Well, I think a lot of people would have had Lindsay. There are a lot of people with not many playing this week. So, yeah. It is what it is. And then Bont only going 100 against the Hawks. Just need a little bit more than that. I don't know what the CBAs were. I haven't checked, but I don't think they were too bad. It's just frustrating. It's just frustrating. I guess the Dogs had one of these games that the Dogs tend to have where they just don't really show up. So that's a little bit frustrating, but it is what it is. Bont is Bont. He'll be okay. Just sucks to get a stinker on the first trade-in. And then Dawson against Brisbane. Didn't do a heap, but stepped up when required. I think Dunkley did a bit of work on him, so kind of is what it is. Took a nice mark and kicked a nice goal at the end of the game for the Crows to win in an interesting game. And then Tom Green was super against the Power. I think the Power should be easy to score against for midfielders, particularly when... particularly if you're not getting Bergman attention. So yeah, that's good. I really like Tom Green. Very happy with this pick. And then Chera just gets it done. Missed most of the second quarter after a pretty crude bump from Durham. But he was okay, had a bit of a black eye, is what it is. We move on. We take that. Hopefully there's no delayed symptoms. That would be fantastic because he has a very good run coming up. Dacos, 95, was clamped by Langdon, but then got like a charity goal, and there's some... I won't get into it. I'm a Melbourne supporter. You probably know what I think. But yeah, we take the 95 in a hard tag, so that's good. Probably a bit of a learning factor for Dacos in the next couple of years. I suspect in a few years' time, Dacos will be virtually untaggable. I think he will get there. He's still young. He's like 21 or 22 or something. He will get there. It's just a matter of when. And I think for the next couple of years, we can look at him and say, look, teams are literally tagging with players that have never tagged before against Dacos. We can probably give it a break. Like, I brought Dacos in before his 172 against Brisbane, so I don't think it's been a disaster for me. But like, Mullen tag, I think this was the first game of Mullen tagging. This was the first game of Wagner tagging. First game of Langdon tagging. Like, teams are coming out of pulling tags out of their ass to deal with Nick Dacos, which, you know, he's a terrific player, so it's not overly surprising, but he seems to be the one that cops the attention. I'm wondering if in the back end of the year, teams stop tagging him, because I think Collingwood lost 1 or 2 games. I can't remember. They lost in round 1. Oh, they lost to Geelong as well. So they lost 2 games. It's only... he was tagged in round 1 though as well. So maybe teams still think that is the way to go to beat them. I don't know. I do think Collingwood are beatable. It's very hard and you have to play very well, but it is doable, and I think teams have the tools to do it. It's just about getting a hold of them in the moments. And even that game they lost against Geelong, Crisp had a shot after the siren to win the game. Like, Collingwood's destiny was probably in their own hands, I would say. So, yeah, they're a tough side to beat. And yeah, I think teams will continue to go after Dacos. And then Lindsay, 19, gave away a 50, which I thought it was pretty stiff, but had some shocking free kicks against as well. So that were genuinely there. So yeah, had scored a 19. Just had a poor game. It's a big stage for a kid, so you give him a pass for that one. And then Murray's started sub is what it is. Cherry, 153. I thought I was going to get a lot more from Cherry in this game, to be honest. So I said I wouldn't take a Bont 150, I think, in the last video. That would have seemed very silly given the output, but I probably still would have won. So it is what it is. And then Gawn is Gawn. I don't know. Just keeps getting it done. Just an absolute champion. So yeah, love watching him go to work. He's a star. Obviously had the awful clanger at the end, but the game was probably over at that point anyway, if we're being honest. So it is what it is. And then Petrarca, 115. It was good to see him not fade out of a game completely, but he had a shocking handball at the end of the game that we fortunately retained possession from, but just feels like he's lacking a little bit of composure, and that's probably some of the rust that he does have. So hopefully that comes off on the run home. It's very hard to say that Melbourne's season is alive, but they can clearly mix it with the best. So maybe I've just got biased fans' optimism, but maybe Petrarca can pull up some big scores on the run home. I don't know. Most people have him, but it doesn't really matter. Horne-Francis will play this week. Would have been nice to have him this week just gone, but it is what it is. Rankin, I said at the start of the season, I didn't trust the midfield role to hold, and it just hasn't. Like, I traded him in for maybe 3 games of proper midfield. It's weird because he was going pretty well in there, but I think the Crows had an issue where the big-bodied midfielders gave them a lot of trouble, and that's been a problem for the Crows in the past. And Rankin doesn't really help with that. He's more of a... If he's in there and they're winning the centre clearance, the clearance game and the stoppage game, he's win more. He's that class on the outside. But he doesn't help you win that clearance game, I don't believe. So I think that's why the Crows have gone that way. I know Nick said that they didn't want him getting banged up for the whole year. Maybe that's the case. Who knows? I'm not sure if his role will come back, so sort of holding on for dear life for this one. And then Caleb Daniel pulled out a massive one. I think he was on more than Cherry. He was on like 60 at quarter time or something, just going berserk. And then McKershaw started to get more ball down back. We'll talk about him in a second. And Daniel's scoring sort of petered off, but I think he can probably still go 90, which would be good. And then Toby Green. I think I've lost money on this pick. This has been a disaster. Absolute disaster. Yeah, I lost a grand or $600 on this pick. It's not the end of the world. But yeah, pretty frustrating. Gets a corky about 5 minutes into the game. Can hardly run and is then subbed out. So, yep, subbed out on 8. Absolute disaster. This is what I get for trading in players whose roles are uncertain. But hey, that's the game, I guess. And I do look like a fool now, but it is what it is. And then DeConing 146 was always going to go well against Goldie. So it is what it is. Has, I think, West Coast next week and then North the week after. Not expecting a massive score against North. However, I am against West Coast. So fingers crossed. That should be good. Right. Let's talk trades. So I had been planning for Nas and for Butters for a while. I think Butters is 2 value, so I am still going to go there, and I would advise others to do the same. Will he get attention from Melbourne this week before a James Jordan tag? I don't know. Sydney didn't tag him last time. I know Melbourne didn't last time, but they weren't really tagging last year. He has killed us in the past. It sort of seems like a no. Why don't we play them twice in Adelaide last year? Anyway, it sort of seems like a no-brainer to go here. He just scores points. And if we look at the run home, like there's a potential tag in the next 3 games. Could I fade Butters? It would have to be insane, wouldn't it? It'd have to be truly mental. Like if he goes average 102, he's at less. Like he's pretty much the same price. But I'm just not sure that Melbourne will go for it. Like, it's not a hard tag with Melbourne, and Jordan hasn't really been tagging this year. Gincotto's only been used this week with merit. I think I'm just going to go there. Yeah, why not? Let's do it. So, yeah, we're going to be going Butters. It's more, what else do I do? So, the rookie on the bubble that everyone's going to be interested in is Johnson. And I am aware that you guys can't really see this. This is Zach Johnson from Essendon I'm talking about. Went 84 against Carlton. I did think he was quite poor against Brisbane, though. I'm actually surprised he scored a 48. And Geelong this week doesn't bode well. So, like, this is the obvious target. I don't think I can afford to go here, which sounds crazy, so I'm not going to. But yeah, that's the obvious rookie target. I'm going to go for McCarthy because I think he'll play, and if not, he's a loop. Now, the other options are McKercher, Doherty, and Mills. I think they're going to be the popular ones, and I do want to talk about Brent Daniels as well. So I'll start with McKercher. So my original issue with picking McKercher at the start of the year, and this was a pick I was very against at the start of the year. I don't know if I voiced that or not, but there was no certainty around his role. It was clear that he was going to play wing and half forward, which is not a good role for Supercoach. See Harry Sheasel. Obviously, Sheasel's turned the corner. Probably a good target if you go there. He is a midfielder, not a forward. So I think they'll persist with him there. I think they need to. It's not one that I love anyway because, you know, there's a lot of guys going through that midfield. LDU, Wardlaw, Parker, Sheasel, Powell. There's one more as well, Simpkins. So, like, there's too many names there. But anyway, I think McKercher is actually just a halfback. Like, I just don't see how he's not strong enough or big enough, and I don't think he'll ever get there to have that inside game that is required to play in the midfield. However, he's very creative off halfback. He's very fast, and he's a very good user. And that, to me, signals a player that should be playing halfback. That's a player I like off halfback. Now, the caveat is that he can't defend, and I've spoken about it at lengths about how you can't have too many of these halfbacks that can't defend, which is definitely a problem that I understand I am going to probably have to face at some point. Hint, I am looking very heavily at McKercher. I just think he is too good in this role to not persist with. And obviously, he did play West Coast, and his only 2 big scores have been against Richmond and West Coast. I understand all that. But I think he is genuinely creative off halfback when they have typically lacked creativity with ball movement. So that's why I really like McKercher. The next one I guess I can talk about is Doherty. So I'd actually decided I was going to go Doherty before I went Whitfield. The reason I didn't is because Doherty is midfielder only, and I did not have a defender anywhere else in my field to move there. So bit of a blunder by me in that regard, but it is what it is. I do really like Doherty as well. He has a cupcake fixture, particularly the next two. He's done this before at halfback, this massive scoring, 100 plus. We know he can do it. I think the Blues need him back there, like McKercher with North. I think he's the only guy who can really do it at Carlton because for whatever reason they're using Sard as a lockdown defender. So that's why I like Doherty. This is very difficult because he does not have defender status. So he's competing with guys like Caldwell. He's the main one, I think, Caldwell, but he's competing with that spot. He will get defender status in round 18, but that is a while away. So I guess if you've got the capacity to hold, maybe you've got a bunch of these cheaper guys who can put up premium scoring and you're willing to hold one of them through to round 18 before shifting some magnets. I don't know what your situation is, but I do actually really like Doherty. I think he can give you 100 worst case at M8, which is not a disaster by any means. Ideally, you'd get that at D8, but it is what it D6, but it is what it is. And then the next one is Mills. Mills will be a talking point throughout the week because he has very good scoring pedigree. Worth noting, he did not have a single centre bounce against Richmond. That was different to when he played against Melbourne. It is also worth noting that there was no Roberts. So what happens with Roberts when he comes back? What happens with Mills when Roberts comes back? Do they persist with Mills at half back? Does he move into the midfield? I don't know. I have always this season been a big supporter of Mills as a pick. However, as a midfielder, not as a defender. I just don't see why the Swans would use Mills enough instead of like Blakey. And I don't see how he gets enough usage to be a consistent scorer as a defender, just with Blakey and Bice and Roberts back there. It just doesn't make sense to me. So that's why I'm a little bit hesitant on Mills and I prefer Doherty and McKercher. But I can totally understand if you do want to go Mills. If he does get moved into the midfield, he's an absolute lock in my eyes. And I have been strong on that the whole year. But if he's playing a bit of wing and a bit of half-back, I don't want anything to do with that personally. So I can understand why people are interested in Mills, but I am against it at this point. I think I will stand there. The other one I want to talk about is Brent Daniels. Now, I'm not sure how many people's radars this would be on, and this was really on my radar once he was named sub because he's a terrific player and he does actually have really good scoring history. If we look at last year, he only averaged 90, but in the back end he's got some massive games here, like 195, 132, 125. This is a perfect F6 with the flex because in these down games, the score drops off. There's probably some injury. I think this is injury affected, this one. But in the not down games, you get the score. You get these massive scores. And we saw that. He played half a game this week and I think he had 80. So the guy just scores and he makes the Giants look way better as well. It is worth noting that. So I really like Brent Daniels as a pick, particularly if he's going to sit at F6 for you with a completed side. I think he is an awesome F6. He may be too expensive at 400k. What's the break even? 74. Probably I would wait until the buy with this one. If he gets too expensive, you probably let him go and look for somewhere else, like a Sam Darcy or a Curnow. Although Curno's good matchups are gone in a couple of weeks. I'd look elsewhere potentially. But one to keep an eye on. If he scores poorly in the next couple of games, it might be hard to trade him in, but I do think it is a genuinely good pick from here. All right, so what the hell am I doing with my trades? So I have had a fiddle around with this. So Lindsay has to go. And what I'm doing here, Green has to go, and I'm actually trading Fonty as well. And what I'm doing here is I'm going Butters, McKercher, and McCarthy. As you can see, I can't afford Johnson, so I'm going McCarthy. Now, why am I doing this? So I think Butters at 560 is too good to pass up on, so I'm going there. I'm going with Kircher because I want to start getting these scores earlier. So I could wait a week for Nas and like carry this cash and just not do this Fonte to McKercher trade. Carry the cash. Wait a week for Nas, as I say. However, I'm almost more inclined to try and muster up the cash for a 23rd primo instead of going after Nas. And that's just where I stand in that regard. I think I'll be able to get a cheap sort of 400k key forward in a couple of weeks, hopefully for 2 trades. I don't know. We will see. I do have Clark making money. Moraes isn't going to make much more, but if he doesn't play this week, I can cash him in for 130k. Maybe I can get a cheap forward for 400k by the end of it. I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. Again, Butters too good to pass up on at the price. I think McKercher can actually go 105 in this role if it persists, which is a massive get. For the 5, I'm saving essentially 120k on Nas here for 5 points per game. I think there's 10 rounds left. So I lose 50 points but save 100k. I think that's worth it. Obviously, these two have to go. I'm going early on Fonte to get the points on the field because I'm not sure the 20k helps me too much in the long run. So yeah, this is what I'm doing here. And then let's sort this out. So why am I defender short? That's why. So this is at full strength for now. This is what the side looks like. So yeah, here we are. So obviously I don't have a playing F6 at the moment, which is hugely problematic. Is there? Maybe there's forward rookies. I'll have a look after this. Maybe I can just rely on a rookie till the end of the year. There was a good one this week, I think. I don't know. We'll see. So yeah, so I've got 8 mids, I've got 6 defenders, I've got the 3 rucks, and then I've got the 5 forwards. I think this is a strong 22 if I'm only going to run with that. However, 22 is definitely not ideal. I'd love to get Clark on field for Gross, but obviously that's not how the game works, but it is what it is. Yeah, I think McKercher at this price is the best value out of a lot of these guys, so that's why I'm rolling with that. But yeah, this is how I'm looking at lining up for the rest of the year, unless I can get enough money from Clark. And yeah, to get, I don't know, Clark and Moraes up. That'd be a dream come true. But yeah, we'll see how we go. Let's get sorted for this week. Hopefully Moraes doesn't play, but I'll set up like this anyway. If McCarthy plays, I will just straight field McCarthy over Moraes. I think he's a much better scoring prospect. So yeah, captains, vice captains. I must take Cherry. It is worth. There's a lot of good matchups this week. So I really like Bont against the Dogs. Sorry, Bont against the Saints. I really like Cherry, obviously, against Freo. I really like Gawn against Port Adelaide. I also like Butters against Melbourne. And then I think you could almost take any Carlton player against West Coast. So I'm going to go with TDK as the captain. We're going to start there. And I think, Gawn just destroys Port Adelaide every time. Except for that time. But I think that was when Grundy was there. Grundy was 23 season. So this is the Grundy year. If we go the year before that, we get a 160 and a 50. I don't know what happened in that game. I can't remember. And then if you go back to 21, only 102. It's 21? Yeah, okay. Interesting. Okay. But it is worth noting that Gawn is versing probably Vicentini, or Sweet, I guess. Vicentini got beaten up by Madden, a first gamer, so I think I'm going to go Gawn with Gawn and TDK. I could go Cherry. I did say 2 weeks ago, if Cherry's in your team, you just put the VC or the C on him. The problem is I think I can get bigger ceiling scores here, and I just know I'll take a 130 from Cherry, so I'm going to go against my own words like a fool. But yeah, is what it is. that's the team for this week. Let me know how you went. Let me know who you're looking to trade in. I hope you had a good week, and see you next time. Bye, guys.